escaping the realm of darkness. The paranormal guys are on a quest to find the answers to the hard questions of where the normal meets the paranormal and the weird, and where the natural meets the unnatural. So grab your holy water, call your mama, and get ready for the Paranormal Guys podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Neal with the Paranormal Guys podcast. And that is, what's your name again, sir?
Hi, my name is Steve. I'm a paranormal guy.
You're a paranormal guy.
And we are a paranormal guys.
We're a pair of normal guys.
That's right.
That's the whole idea.
That's right.
That we're a pair, as in two, of just normal guys who are interested in
paranormal.
Man, you are so good at this, dude.
I'm pretty bright.
You're bright. Man, not the sharpest crayon.
No, not the sharpest.
Definitely not the
sharpest.
But
this dull edge will cut it if you swing hard enough.
I've never heard that before. Never heard that one before. But everybody, today's date is October 20th, 2022. Guess what, Steve? It is the spooky season.
It's October.
It's October, man.
Ooh.
You want to know what else is cool about this season, too? It is also football season, man. We're from the Chicagoland area, and I'm wearing my Chicago Bears shirt, as you can see. Kind of see it a little bit there. I like to sit on Sundays and watch the Bears games. I like to watch football entirely. Steve, you're not really a big sports guy, though, are you?
No, man. I got things to do.
You got things to do? I got things to do, man, but I put a little time to the side to watch it. I mean, we do our tours on the Fridays and Saturday nights. Speaking of which, guess what, Steve? It's spooky season, like I said.
Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, we got our tours going on.
With Graveside Paranormal.
That's right, with Graveside Paranormal. And you know what else? Is that we have a special one that's going to be going on October 22nd, the 28th, and 29th for the first time ever. St. James Cemetery, otherwise known as Monk's Castle, is allowing us to go in there at night and talk about the stories, the really fine folklore, legendary stories of spookiness. And we're going to take a big group of a little over 40 people into there on those nights. And then we also are starting off the season, as we did, on the 8th of October. And we're running it all the way through to the 29th. And then we got some other little side jobs that we're doing for other little private tours that people want us for. So go ahead.
Yeah, for folks that keep asking, will we be inside the cemetery?
Yeah, you know what? There's people who send us things on things. Can you tell me exactly where we're going? Blah blah blah. You'll see that we communicate very well with all of our audience, all our customers. I try to get back to each and every one of you, and I know Steve does on email. We are going to go into as many places as we possibly can, but we are limited. It is a nighttime, and it is against the law. When gates are up, you cannot enter. That's against the law, plain and simple. So what do? Is I try to circumvent things. I call people. I ask for permission. There's a lot of other things that are in the background that people don't realize is going on. You set up meetings with certain people who run cemeteries and this and that, because we want to bring out the best product for each and every one of you. So we're going to be able to go in St. James. We always go to the back end of Bachelor's Grove. For the second year in a row, we're going into the farm to talk about the Butcher of Palos Park. Another thing in the background, people don't realize, we have to go over there and negotiate with people about what we do. Just giving everybody a little heads up of what we actually do. We just don't just jump in a bus and go there. All these things are very planned through. We have to plan these things out all throughout the year. But we try to give you, each and every one of you, the best spooktacular time that we possibly can. The other thing we got going on, Steve, we got the Roth House, dude.
Right.
That's another one. John, the owner of the Roth House, really cool guy. You have to sit there and you have to negotiate with them. You have to talk to them about what we can or cannot do. So we got the Roth House for a private tour on the 29th. The 29th. And Michelle Ward is going to be taking care of that. She's going to have over 12 people out there. It's the first documented possession in America. They're going to be out there, and we also have it because we watch what we see on Facebook, and on Watseek was like, oh, can you give us our own thing in our own community? So we're giving daytime tours on the 16th of October from 2 p.m. till about 10 o'clock at night. And it's only $10, and you're getting 15 minutes on every floor. And what's cool about it is we record the things for you, and then we send it to your email. And our boy genius over here, Steve, I'll tell him how we do that.
Basically, we take your recording and we transfer it from the EVP recorder, the digital recorder, right when you're there, and we email it to you directly. And for the video part, we do mark down your file, the camera you had, the time, and then we send the file to you.
Right. And you get that, and then you go ahead and you look through or listen through all the evidence, and you can videotape as you're going along as well. See if you guys pick up something. We appreciate when you guys get back to us and say, "Hey, we caught something," and we'll go through it and we'll see if you actually did catch something. So that's some of the things. What else is new with you, though, Steve? Anything new?
What's new? I mean, we're planning a big Halloween season. By the time this airs, we're gonna be pretty much halfway through with Halloween, right? October 20th is when we air this.
Yeah, we're going to be almost halfway through.
Yeah.
So we're going to be very busy because we got those 4.5-hour tours. Now, Steve, we have a cool subject tonight, man.
Oh.
Now, yeah. I just so everybody knows, I have to put that out there. We are going to be talking about with a friend of ours, okay?
Right.
His name is Jason. And he is... I don't know if I'm using the word right, a Satanist, but I like to try to give everybody a platform to talk about what they want to talk about. Now, I come from a Catholic Christian background. Now, do I believe everything that I'm told, or I was told as a child? No, I don't believe everything that is in the Bible, and that's just my personal view. But I want to put out some discretion out here. At no time are we trying to advocate to anyone to be a Satan worshiper or a Satanist or anything like that.
I'm wearing my crucifix tonight, Neal. Yeah. I'm not taking chances. I like Jason. He's a nice guy, but this subject it makes me uneasy. We're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. But Steve, here's the thing is, I believe in giving everybody a platform to be able to talk what they want to talk about. We may not agree, and we will probably disagree, but at the end, as long as we can walk away as friends, that'd be cool as heck. Mm-hmm. But you have to give everybody a platform. You just have to. And I know that he's going to come with a very knowledgeable dialogue for us. And I really expect this interview to be actually very, very good. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, keep in mind this episode is going to be about Satanism. So if you do not want to listen to this, or you do not want to see it on our YouTube or anything like that, feel free. Don't watch this one. If it's something that bothers you because you are strong in a certain religious faith, then don't watch it or listen to it. That's up to you. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. I'm going to go now.
You're going? You're leaving?
No, I'm just kidding. I'll stick around for the show.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, if folks do want to follow and continue watching it, please know that I'm of a Christian faith. I don't advocate Satanism or... we go out there and we do our paranormal thing, and people might question, well, Steve, how can you go out there and... try and communicate with ghosts or do these paranormal investigations or tours and be a Christian? I thought you're told not to do that. But what's funny is my faith actually got stronger by doing this type of work with Neal, because it actually started to prove to me that there was something else out there and something that my mind can't explain, and that started to make sense when we looked through the lens of religion, the basics of religion, and not really the manhandled version, which you see a lot of men in religion can get tempted to pervert the beliefs and take money from you, or not really do what they say.
It's not. There's a lot of imperfectness.
We're all human.
We're all human,
and I think we're all subject to being persuaded by evil. I think that evil's a real thing, and we're prone to be affected by it or influenced by it sometimes. And so this subject, it's kind of like I have a bias, Neal. I have a bias against it.
Sure.
And anybody watching our show tonight and also has a bias to the subject, please know that I have that bias too. So you could join me on this journey and continue watching it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why we put that out there. We put it out there to our audience, be aware of the subject matter we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be bringing in Jason in a couple of minutes, and let's try and lighten the mood, I guess, for a moment. So, Steve.
Yes.
Can we get to the Paranormal Guys Weird World News at this time?
Yes.
All right. A woman in Florida believes that her home security system captured footage of a baby dinosaur dashing through her yard. According to local media reports, a strange scene unfolded outside the residence of Christina Ryan in the city of Palm Coast. Early one morning last week, she says her security picked up the presence of something in her yard and began filming. The oddity in question, the dinosaur, supposedly, as seen in the video above, appears to be some kind of creature running past her house. Steve, let's look at some of that so some of our viewers know that you can, if you want to see what we look like and see the things that we can show you, go to our YouTube part. All right, let's watch this video.
I don't know, man.
You know what?
You think that's a dinosaur?
So roll it again. Just roll it again, okay? And it's regular speed, okay? Now, looking through there, the way that it is, it looks like a baby T-Rex, okay? On that motion there and at that speed, and the way that the tail is, the back end of it, I would say, oh my God, it looks like a baby T-Rex. But let's slow it down for a minute, all right?
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That kind of went by fast, but let's reverse.
Let's reverse it a little bit.
All right.
All right.
All right. Let's kind of get
right
back.
Right there. Okay, don't move it no more. Okay, so I have to be honest with you now that we have it in that angle, or the way that we're seeing it. It's a dog. Because you can clearly see the hind legs. Okay. The tail, a lot of owners, they crop certain tails on dogs. Is that just a cropped tail? What do you think, Steve?
I think it's this.
I mean, yeah, that could be also, where someone puts a dinosaur costume on their dog.
Right. And then, they...
Like that one there too. That has the thing from Jurassic Park.
Right.
What
so
they call it? The raptors, or velociraptors.
Right. So they put the costume on the dog, whack it on the butt, and then it goes running.
Yeah.
Right.
And the camera doesn't really pick up things like brightly.
Yeah, but that's totally looks like a costume, right? Like,
yeah. Now you say that. And what's with the patch on the back of the neck?
Right. That's some sort of like, they left the tag on. Maybe they're going to return it tomorrow.
Yeah, there's so I'm saying, because I see the hind legs, it could be just, a couple guys are they're in their garage, they're drinking this and that, and they're going, they see this little dinosaur costume and he goes, hey, I have an idea. So I'm gonna say it's not a dinosaur.
No,
I don't think we have to worry about that. Them running around.
No, I think it's just Rover
in a costume.
Dinosaur, right?
All right. What do you got for us there, Steve?
Well, Neal, I was kind of going through the internet a little bit, and every now and then I touch on weird stuff like, Teletubbies,
Yeah, that was weird.
Now, that's how I remember the Teletubbies, but that's just my recollection of them. They were always a little scary, Neil.
Yeah, that looked like a nightmare picture.
You know what was scary to me too? That baby in the sun.
Yeah, the baby in the sun. That's the one that gives the little giggle in the beginning. Because I remember when my daughter was little, I used to watch this all the time, dude.
That thing scared me, man. Like, I mean, I was an adult when this show came on. I had a daughter too at the time when this show came out, and
you're not an adult now.
I was an adult. Yeah, that's the thing. I was an adult back then. No. And that thing scared me. It was creepy. I thought, why am I letting my kid watch this, demonic thing on TV? Look at it. Yeah. But anyway, she grew up.
Morning Star.
Yeah, this baby grew up, and this is what she looks like now, right? Mm-hmm. She doesn't carry that thing around with her and look through it all the time. This is what she looks like, actually. Yeah. Kind of the same, right?
Like if she gets like a job, anywhere, she always has to take an ID picture. Can you imagine all the times they always make her up with like that little sun around her face,
right?
Her ID picture, so that everybody knows who she is.
Yeah. But then it got me thinking, Neil. All these shows that were on, like, I wanted to know what happened to Barney. So I started looking, and the actor who played Barney is now a tantric sex guru,
Steve,
and he charges $350 per session. Neil,
what tantric sex?
Tantric sex, I guess it's like conserving all of your sexual energy and like moving it around your body for health. And like supposedly Barney, his real name is David Joyner. Right. Apparently he charges $350, but he can last for 4 hours during that session.
Stop, dude. All right.
No, he goes for a long time. Like that's less than $100 an hour, $350 for 4 hours.
So is he in?
He love you long time.
I mean, is he in porno movies or something?
No, he's a tantric sex guru.
Oh, he's like a teacher. He's a teacher.
He teaches them how to do it. Like
with energy.
Can you imagine the poor husband? Like he could probably go barely 4 minutes, and then she got these expectations of like 4 hours, and then I don't know. But it made me wonder. Do you think he sings that song?
I love you. You love me. You got $350, and guess what you will see?
Yeah. Yeah. I love you. You love me. We love each other for $350.
There we go.
There you go. That's him.
Yeah, he just looks weird. I mean, I have to admit, he does look weird.
Well, he's probably got something going on down there. So.
Yeah, probably do. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next little fun piece. Do you know what, Steve? Like I said, it's spooky season. So Netflix has the movie Little Nicky.
Oh, Little Nicky.
Do you remember Little Nicky? Yeah,
this
with
movie?
Adam Sandler.
This guy?
Yeah. So I started watching it again, man. I was laughing my butt off, man. I haven't seen that movie in a while. That movie is it's an awesome movie. It's just so hilarious. I think it's one of his best movies ever was Little Nicky. I'm surprised they never came out with Little Nicky 2.
Or a TV show. Would you watch that?
I don't know if I'd watch it, but, I'd rather just see a movie of it. I think it was just well done. And I mean, it was just such an awesome idea, that he's like the son of the devil, and one day he'll be on the throne of the devil when after 10,000 years. It was really, really good. Have you ever seen Little Nicky?
No, I never watched that movie.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm a Christian.
That has nothing to do with it, man.
I wasn't allowed to watch stuff like that.
I highly doubt that. You're a line webber, dude.
No, but I do like
watch weird shit. Yeah. Weird stuff. Sorry.
No, I do like Adam Sandler though. But I like him in those movies with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
You ever see those? The
Yeah.
Wedding Singer.
Yeah, and the one where like she lost her memory or something, right?
50 First Dates.
50 First Dates, yeah.
And they had a newer one where they went to Africa.
Yeah.
What was the name of that one?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's gonna come to me, and then I'm gonna like shout it out during the broadcast with Jason if I don't think about it now.
Well, you know what? That now you said Jason, I think we should start to move ahead, and let's bring in our guest, Mr. Jason Streetz. We are going to, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the subject of Satanism. If you do not feel comfortable with this subject whatsoever, feel free not to listen. But I think, like I said before, I believe everybody should have a platform, and I think it's a subject that we should actually talk about. A lot of people say that you shouldn't talk about like politics and religion with friends or anything like that, but we're going to today.
Politics?
Yeah, politics. No, not politics. We're not talking politics, dude.
I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed
All right.
to. All right. So with that being said, after these messages, Mr. Jason Streetz and Satanism. Boo.
Hey, boils and ghouls, it's spooky season again, and Graveside Paranormal is ready to give you the best tours that we can give you. Come on out this year, starting on October 8th, and we have a special tour coming out. Other than our nightlife tour, we have the Monks Tour, which will be on the 22nd, the 28th, and 29th for the first time ever. Monks Gates is going to be opened up for us, and we're going to be able to go in there and tell you all the wonderful, scary stories. So come on out if you want to have a good time and get a little spooky. Boo.
And now, back to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right, we're back. I hope you enjoyed those messages from the Paranormal Guys podcast. Now, we are going to welcome in our guest now, Mr. Jason Streetz. Jason, welcome. Welcome to the Paranormal Guys podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. Like I was telling the audience earlier, this is a subject matter where some people are not going to agree with you. Some people aren't going to agree with me. But the thing is that I'm not going to subjugate you just as not agree with you or not agree with me, but that we all need to have a platform to better understand certain things. That's why I wanted to have this show. Not to go, oh my God, that Jason Streetz, you know he's going to be doing some kind of sacrifice after this with some virgin, which is a bad idea. But that he's going to be doing some kind of sacrifices and this and that. I don't think that's who you're about or what you're about.
Not at all.
But I want to welcome you in, and I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I want you to tell them everything, the tarots that you do and everything. So, Jason, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you for that. Yeah. So again, my name is Jason Streetz. Yes, I am a Satanist, which we'll get into. And no, it has nothing to do with rituals or anything. No, not of the sort you think. We'll get into that. But yeah, so I'm also a tarot card reader, as you mentioned. I'm out there as Tarot by Ptah, spelled P-T-A-H. But yeah, no, professionally, I'm a software engineer. So somehow you put all that together and a few more things and you get me.
Yeah. How long have you been a software engineer?
Professionally, my entire professional life, and then just as a hobby, as soon as my parents put a keyboard in front of me. So.
Oh, really? Cool. That's great. Now, one of the questions I want to ask you is why Satanism? And please define what Satanism means to you.
I love the way that you worded that, of course. What does it mean to me? I'll start with that, and then I'll explain why, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
So Satanism to me is about reason, empathy, justice, rationality, compassion. I know that sounds perhaps striking to what many people may think Satanism means. Mm-hmm. And I could say much more. But why? Well, I'll give you the really brief, prior to identifying as a Satanist, I was more of, I guess most people would understand it to be like a libertarian, or some say objectivist standpoint. Again, all about reason, using your mind, keeping your mind open, compassion with other people, or cooperation even. We live in a division of labor society, and moreover, it's just the right thing to do. So when the Satanic Temple is the particular version of Satanism I ascribe to, right? So yes, I'm a Satanist, but I'm a rational atheist Satanist. And that is what the Satanic Temple is about, in my opinion. And it's an informed opinion, but yes. And so it just was kind of natural. The ideology, the tenets, as they call them, or the philosophical statements, already aligned with what my life had led me up to believe at that point. But then I guess I've always, I love the aesthetic. I love their actual, because I was, as a tarot reader, I was already kind of moving in the circles of, pentagrams and that kind of thing. But I also really, really like, and this could be a whole subject, what the Satanic Temple as an institution, as a religion, is doing in the world. And that could be a whole separate conversation. So I finally decided to, after researching it, I said, yes, I'm essentially, I know I'm not alone in this sense. So, you discover you're a Satanist in one sense when you realize everything that the Satanic Temple was doing and how much it already aligned with things I already believed in or wished I could have seen done in the world. And so that's why I identify as a rational atheistic Satanist in the sense of the Satanic Temple.
So would you say it's more of a nonconformity, common sense kind of thinking?
It's definitely nonconformist. I mean, and yes, common sense. Well, I wish it was common sense.
Well, what I mean by common sense, let me, if someone falls down on the ground, you have compassion for them and reach out your hand to pick them back up. You're not about to go kick them in the gut and go, Satan lives.
No, no, of course not. So yes, exactly. It's about compassion. If someone were to fall or appear to be in distress or need, and I can reasonably do so without risk to myself or to other people around me, yeah, of course, we will do what we can to be compassionate. I personally will do what I can to be compassionate. And
go ahead.
Oh, please.
No, please continue.
Yeah, I mean, sort of, you gave that counterexample of I'm not just going to, Satan lives and kick somebody. That to me, and I understand it, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions. And this gets into, I'll introduce here this idea, if I may. There's identifying as a Satanist. In other words, I, Jason Streetz, identify as a Satanist for the reasons I just outlined, right? And then there's people who use the name of Satan, and this goes back to the Satanic Panic and so much more, where they're just edgelords in today's thing. They're just trying to be edgy. They're trying to invoke something that sounds blasphemous or shocking, even though they have no real philosophical understanding of what Satan is or ever was. And so those are more the people, whether if Satan was in the world or if they've never heard of it, they'll say, oh, heavy metal, or, find something that's edgy and scary to people and invoke that. And then finally, there's the other then there's this other camp, and this gets into Satanic Panic and a few other things. But in short, there are people who are just doing what they do, or they're misunderstood or nonconformist in some way. And people will call them Satanists for the lack of anything better. Oh, what you're doing offends me or scares me or seems a little occult or weird. And there will be people in the world who will say, oh, that person, that must be a Satanist. So in that case, it's a label or a shun. So yeah, so wrap that all back together again with yes, if someone's hurt or in distress, I'll do what I can to assist them. And I believe I'm like-minded with many of my fellow temple members as such. And I realize that runs contrary to the popular idea of what a Satanist means in sort of those other two senses.
Okay. Now, do you have regular meetings? Like, do you go to the temple?
So yes, there are actual. So I'm a member of the Illinois congregation of the Satanic Temple, and in that sense, there are regular meetings, monthly meetings. Essentially, it's not at a temple. We don't actually have a physical location in Illinois, although of course there is in Salem, the headquarters. The Satanic Temple has, for the lack of a better term, an institution, a building. So yeah.
Okay. And how many members does the Illinois have? Do you know?
It's approaching 100 actual members. To my understanding.
So it's a small volume.
Yeah, there's a long story to that. But yes, it's right now a relatively small number of people who have actually joined up the Illinois congregation. But if you were to look at the people who identify themselves as TST Satanists or just Satanists more broadly, there's many more people in Illinois that I can
because
rattle off.
there's different sects, not SEX, but there's different groups, I should say. There's many different groups that are out there that have different ideologies of what Satanism is to them, or worshiping Satan or Lucifer. And we can also fall into demons and stuff like that. So when you really, really do that, you're saying in your mind's eye of what you believe in, it's a smaller volume, but it's a much broader volume on the word of Satan, of being held under an umbrella of a belief.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually simply referring to what I would consider the Satanic Temple style rational atheistic Satanists, whether they're part of the Illinois congregation or not. But then you do your broader point. Yes, there's Church of Satan, there's Temple of Sets, there's all these other satanic organizations with complete different. Some of them are theist or actually worship a devil of some sort. Sure. So yeah, that casts the much wider umbrella you're talking about.
Right. And for some people who don't know me, my mom was actually a nun and my dad was a brother in the Catholic Church before they met. And of course, after they met, then they had me and my other two brothers. One of the things about that I've been learning about is that I think it was 2015 or 2018 that they had the thing where now not everybody's going to believe everything to the book unless you're an extremist on the Bible and this and that, or to the Church of God or any Catholic or Christian religion. I don't believe in everything that is written. So I understood the 2015 or 2018 when they tried to put the Baphomet statue near the Ten Commandments. Commandments, I'm sorry. I really did understand this. It's not that I agree with what the statue looks like and this and that, but what I do understand is you're not going to conform us all in a classroom to believe or go into prayer in a classroom and then make me do that when that's not my ideology or my thinking or anything I believe in. So and correct me if I'm wrong. So then you guys came up with this thing of let's come up with Satanism, basically to put up against it to show, hey, there is other ideas out there, but you're using it just as a figurehead to show your ideology that I shall not conform. Am I correct on that?
Basically, if I may comment further to just sort of round out my opinion or briefly on that. So yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying. Again, I can speak of my opinion and informed opinion on these things, but I'm not a spokesman for the Satanic Temple. So we're clear on this. Okay. But that was put there mainly because the Ten Commandments was already there, and TST was trying to say, well, if it's good, if you're allowing this religious monument on public funded state grounds, we should be able to come in and put in our monuments because, and yes, there's a lot of different interpretations of this. Oh, we're just trying to be edgy or, a stunt. But if you actually look at the underlying legal arguments of separation of church and state, that basically this is what it was all about. In short, I mean, I could say so much more, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's just because we in America grew up with Judeo-Christians in the Society of Judeo-Christian. And so majority back in those days, it was very high disciplined, very disciplined. I would say going all the way into the 1940s and 50s, starting to change up in the 60s as you started to get into rock and roll and stuff like that. But it was people, you were taught to think a certain way, act a certain way, and you were only going to be that certain way. If you weren't that certain way, well, then you're going to pay for your sins type mentality. I know that we've come of a broader mind on thinking, and I think that's when Anton LaVey was in 1965 or 63 or something like that.
Yep.
He came up with the Church of Satan, and the reading that I'm getting from him is that actually he was a carny, and he so most carnies, they know people, they pay attention to people. They know how they act. They know how they think. It's because that's all they do is sit there and watch them all day. So he came up with the thing about self. He wasn't talking about, now I don't know. I never knew the man, of course, he's dead. And I don't know what kind of weird stuff he was into, because I'm sure he was. but he also did talk about that Satan is self. You are Satan. Am I correct on that?
Yes. So LaVey, yes, there's a connection. To be rationally selfish is among the most satanic things possible. And I qualify selfish rationally because a lot of people hear the word selfish and assume it means doing what you want at the expense of other people. That's not what I'm talking about. But yes, okay. Satan as self was in LaVey's setup, and it is also very much a part of the Satanism I prescribe to and in the Satanic Temple as I've observed it. So some people, I'll just give you a little taste, right? Some people will say, oh, hail Satan, right? It's equally possible and it's equally acceptable. And in fact, in some circles, it's preferred to say, hail thyself.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and I'm going to hand it off to Steve, and then we'll come on back. One of the things, I want to go over different Satanism cults. I mean, not cults, groups. I shouldn't use the word group. I mean, cult. I shouldn't use the word cult. I should use the word group on this. What is a reactive Satanist?
Reactive?
Yes.
That could mean a few things. Honestly, I'm not familiar with that term specifically.
Well, what I was getting out of my research, they worship Satan as a god.
Okay, so yeah, that would, as a feature, the term I would have used, or at least that I'm familiar with to describe that, would be a theistic or supernaturally minded Satan, those who actually worship some kind of a metaphysically purported being, Satan or otherwise.
Okay. Now, have you ever come across being a Satanist, meeting other people from different groups who are more extreme than your way of thinking?
Depends on, well, yes, but it depends on what you mean by extreme.
All right. I'm glad you asked that question. We'll say sacrifices. We'll say, because you know as well as I do that we do the paranormal and stuff like that, and I've come across people who have taken things to certain places and use Ouija boards. Now, and let me explain something about Ouija boards real quick. It's not what people think it is. It's the intent of the individual that causes the action to happen. I can easily sit here and draw up something on a piece of paper. If I have the intent to go ahead and try to summon something, I'm going to do that. One way or another, it's going to eventually happen. Have you met people like this who believe that if they start to reach out to this other side, maybe demons will use the term demons? Mm-hmm. Have you met people like this?
Oh, sure. Yeah. A few too many for my tastes, but yes.
So you don't agree with us doing stuff like that?
Well, no. I mean, at least as I would interpret it, when I hear, trying to summon demons, A, I don't believe that there are any, but B, I think that's like, at least not for all, because demon is itself a loaded word, right? If you look at the history of demon, it doesn't necessarily mean demon in the Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic sense, but let's stick with the latter. No, it basically, that's not benevolence. That's an ill faith. You're trying to cause harm or selfish at the expense of other people, or trying to summon powers to power your. No, I don't agree with any of that. I don't like that.
So would you say you're more an agnostic than an atheist?
Somewhere between those two things. I mean, for a long time, and I still agree with this, I'm an apatheist. In other words, until or unless there's some actual verifiable proof, I'm an empiricist. And it's okay to have a lot of doubts. So, yeah.
Were your parents Catholic or Christian?
Oh, very much so. Yes. My father's side, I believe, was Protestant. My mother's side was, through my grandmother on that side, very, very Catholic.
So there's a lot of arguing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that. Were they Irish?
No, I think both sides of my family ultimately are Austrian or German primary descent.
Oh, okay. All right. Steve, you had some questions, sir?
Yeah. Hey, Jason. For folks that are just tuning in, they might not know exactly what a rational atheist is. Can you explain what that is and how that might be different from other types of atheism?
Sure. So, of course, in a sense, in a Venn diagram, a rational Satanist and an atheist has a lot in common. In the core beliefs, if you ask me, and this is going to sound a bit philosophical, but philosophically we agree with the same things: reason, justice, truth, empiricism, using your mind, believing in science, or at least the scientific method, as against, and in fact, ruling out supernatural things. Either, if it can't be proven, if it's not even wrong, if it cannot be falsifiable, it's of no use and no interest. At least that's how that from, in my opinion, in my experience, this is definitely true of me, and I've found it to be true either overtly or otherwise in others that are either atheists or rational Satanists. But the difference between them, I suppose, is, and I'm not saying that there aren't other organizations or institutions out there just explicitly about or around atheists, because I know that there are. But the difference is, and I realize this is something that could be a little misunderstood, the Satanic Temple and even LaVey's Church of Satan, yes, we are rational atheists, but we actually we believe, and we would argue, and I personally would argue, that Satanism in this sense, in the sense of the Satanic Temple, is a religion. It's not just a bunch of like-minded people. It is also a bunch of like-minded people, but we have a similar shared aesthetic, a similar set of values. We have a sense of community. We have our, holidays. We have the rituals that you would expect. No, not sacrificial rituals. I'm talking rituals. Think of like a birthday party is a ritual. A wedding is a ritual. We have rituals of that sort. They are psychodrama. They are, to outsiders, they might look a little scary. Some of us dress up, some of us don't. And we just go through motions for the psychodrama, for the expression of it. For some people, it's cathartic. Or some people, it's just celebrating a holiday. So,
right. No,
yeah.
and like one of the things is, and Steve, I don't mean to, I just want to say what I was thinking about that. A lot of people don't realize that actually it was Catholic faith that adopted a lot of pagan holidays. Take, for instance, not the word Christmas, but Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And take, for instance, Halloween. So they had to blend together Halloween with the Day of the Dead, or All Saints Day, I think. And so they had to come to some kind of meeting. Why? Because they needed parishioners.
Yeah.
So, there's always a little give and take on these things. I'm never going to sit here and say, that he's totally wrong on something or I'm totally right on something, when I know I've done my research on certain things. And a lot of people don't realize that there was a lot of things that were done behind the scenes that people don't realize. That's how you have Santa Claus now. It's because it came from a pagan belief.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Halloween. It's, it's just give and take on everything. Any kind of negotiation is like doing a contract, Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. So thanks for sharing that, Jason. And you talked a bit about like why you choose as an atheist, you would choose a theological figure like Satan, right? Not just for
a literary figure. I understand it's theological. We take it to be, for what it's worth, we take it to be a literary figure.
Tell me more about that.
Okay. So yes, of course, theological. So in the sense of like, Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic religions, obviously there's a meaning behind Satan, Lucifer, the devil, right?
Right.
And so, yes, the common question is, why have you decided, okay, if you're just a bunch of people and you want to have your rituals and your aesthetic, why did you have to use Satanism?
Right.
Yeah. Why did you use Satan? Why did you choose the villain of the Bible, right? That is morally charged to a lot of people.
Versus like the spaghetti monster, flying spaghetti monster.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't we just pick or invent something new? Right.
Right.
This is in short. Yes. Some people would say, oh, well, you just chose this because it has the blasphemous shock value and it rattles doors. And okay, yes, we are aware of that, or at least I'm aware of that. And I've heard other TST members say as such. And it has been used not just to punk, but as a tool, right? But that's not the primary reason. Let me circle back around. Okay. Why Satan? Because there's a history, much like you can track on anything, that there's a literary version of Satan that goes back to like Paradise Lost and Milton's stuff and so much more history, like Renaissance era, Enlightenment era stuff. That is the Satan. That is the literary figure. In other words, the eternal rebel against arbitrary authority, arguing for individual rights against totalitarian regimes, things like that.
So not saying the Church of Literary Satanism, but the Church of Satan, right? It still carries that edginess versus a very direct, like, well, we're talking about literal Satan, mm-hmm. or literary Satan. So there is still that edginess to it. And I think that it might not be the primary reason, but it's a reason that maybe you wouldn't want to discarded because it has an effect.
That's a great way to put it. Yes. In other words, I'm certainly aware of it. I know we're aware of it, and yes, it has been used as a tool as such as in its effect. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. And so were you always an atheist? I know you mentioned that you grew up with a religious background in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of resist that right at the go, or did you become an atheist? And if you became one, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So maybe this will say it in just a few words. I was one of those why kids.
Mm-hmm.
Why this? Why that? Which means I was a really annoying, obnoxious little punk to adults. I just know this. So just set all the rest of that aside and just focus in on the religion. So basically, yes, the religion that was, they put me through Sunday school, and I would get Bible passages read to me at night, and it just bounced right off. I mean, because I wanted to know why or how. And, and I would get, it's going to sound a little reactionary, but, in my mind at the time, the flippant young me, which is still somewhere in here, was like, I would get the stick. Well, pay attention, Jason. If to deny this is to deny faith, and to deny faith is to deny God, and that means you're going to hell. I'm like, okay, there's a chain of things that I can't point to and you can't explain, and anything other than things that circle back to themselves, or that ultimately boil down to a book that was written by humans, as far as anyone can tell. And anyway, so it bounced right off.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you were Teflon. It wouldn't stick.
I was also an annoying little jerk.
Sure.
I think we all were at one time.
Yeah, I still am.
Yeah, he's just an old jerk now.
Yeah, and I'm an old annoying jerk. No, but that's interesting. So as a, I'm just laughing at the annoying jerk, and Neal, I'm not laughing at anything related to you at all.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not. No. So you were kind of always kind of asking why, and maybe had a little edginess to you, right?
Because it just kind of came with the territory. It's not something I sought out. Yeah.
Right. So now I can see where if it's being pushed at you and you're asking why, and yeah, definitely. I have a little video I want to show you, but I want to ask you a question first. From your perspective, what would you define is evil? What is evil?
I love this. I don't want to push too much, but a friend of mine just started a whole podcast where we're exploring that notion. Anyway,
right.
But yeah, so evil, there's sin and there's evil, if you ask me. True evil is malevolence. I'll take a page from sort of my objectivist roots, and I believe this follows through into Satanism. Evil is the initiation or use of force against someone, right? Where it's not welcome. So in other words, I'm not talking sports or boxing. I mean, you're trying to hurt someone. You're trying to use physical force or the threat thereof to compel them against something that is not, is not congruent with their own will or their own benefit. And then you get into sort of more elaborated, philosophically related, but difficult to summarize quickly. You get into theft and a few other things where, again, you are stealing or hurting from other people, hurting other people.
Well, let me stop you both for a second, because now we are at the moment during the show.
Oh,
we have a segment called Into the Shadows with Shell. Steve, roll it.
Attention, all lost souls. It's time to get into the shadows with Shell.
The Litanies of Satan by Charles Baudelaire. O you, the most knowing and loveliest of angels, a God fate betrayed, deprived of praise. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. O Prince of Exile, to whom wrong has been done, who vanquished always recovers more strongly. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You, who know everything, king of the underworld, the familiar healer of human distress. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who teach even lepers, accursed pariahs, through love itself, the taste for paradise. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. O you who in wrath your ancient true lover, endangered hope, that lunatic charmer. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who grant the condemned that calm, proud luck, that damns a whole people crowding the scaffold. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who know in what corners of envious countries a jealous God hid those stones that are precious. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You whose clear eye knows the deep catches, where buried the race of metals slumbers. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You whose huge hands hide the precipice from the sleepwalker on the skyscraper's cliff. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who make magical supple the bones of the drunkard out late, who's trampled by horses. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who taught us to mix saltpeter and sulfur to console the frail human being who suffers. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who set your mark, O subtle accomplice, on the forehead of Croesus, the vile and the pitiless. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. You who set the hearts and eyes of young girls, the cult of the wounds, adoration of rags. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. The exile's staff, the lights of invention, confessor to those to be hanged by conspirators. O Satan, take pity on my long misery. Father, adopting those whom God the Father drove in dark from the earth by paradise. O Satan, take pity on my long misery.
And now, back to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right, we're back. That was Michelle with one of her awesome poems. Thank you, Michelle, for everything that you do. We do truly appreciate it. Now, I'd like to, Steve, did you have another question, though, before we move on?
So how would you handle somebody who maybe lost their kind of trust in institutional religion, but they were good people? What would you say to them? They believe in God. They fear Satan. How would the Church of Satan help somebody like that?
I'm not sure about the Church of Satan. I can speak of my opinion of the Satanic Temple.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
yeah, the Satanic Temple.
Fine. Yeah, I'm just always very careful because we are very different. So.
And thank you, and yeah, for those listening, there is a big difference, and see that's going to happen, right? People who don't know much about this are going to constantly confuse the two.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's just, again, it's natural. Like like any other, there's a million varieties of Christendom, and if you're not really aware of it or you're not in those circles, you wouldn't necessarily tell one from the other. So it's totally reasonable. Yeah. Okay, so I suppose to answer your question, you're saying if someone like that were to sort of approach and was curious about the Satanic Temple, or are you just saying how I would interact with someone like that?
How would your church or the temple be a place for them? Is there a place for somebody like that? And how? And if so, how? So
again, it's a temple, and think of everything that you think of in, say, an Abrahamic church. Just take away the theism. So in other words, there's a community, there's friendships, there's bonds, right? So all of that is there, and within the Satanic Temple and within the Illinois congregation, again, I'm not speaking for them, but I can speak of what I've seen. So we have basically yes, that we have what are called like friends, or I forget the particular terms because they've changed it a few times. But basically, anyone who's sort of generally on board, and they can have supernatural beliefs. It doesn't rule them out, right? Mm-hmm. As long as they're generally on board with the philosophical ideas of the tenets that are available on the website, the Satanic Temple. So we have people that are sort of in that category you've described, that are maybe not full voting members or whatever, but they are definitely part of the community. And I think that answers your question.
Sure, it does. Yeah. So as a tarot card reader, right, and working in some of the weird stuff that like Neal and I, kind of in the paranormal world, how do you balance being an atheist and a tarot card reader, or is the tarot really like a mystic thing, or is it sort of a psychological thing?
I would put it more in the psychological category. There's certainly mysticism that's been said of it, and there's a lot of mystical belief around it, if you ask me, all of which is very easily debunked if you look at certain historical texts. But no, so I explain this actually almost every time I get a chance. And if there's time when I'm out doing public events and someone asks me the question, I will say, to me, it's more about food for thought, or I use the analogy, a tarot card reading is sort of like cloud gazing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just giving you with what I'm saying on the cards happen. I read the cards. I say some things. That is the equivalent of a cloud. If when you think cloud gazing, you step outside. You and I were to, all three of us were to step outside. We'd look at the same cloud. I would see Homer Simpson. One of you would see a car. The third of you would see something else entirely. We're all looking at the same cloud. Why? It's because it's what's up here. It's what's going on in the back of our head. Humans, in my opinion, we want to pattern match. Psychologically, visually,
we're meaning-making machines. Our bodies.
I love that. Yes, so tarot reading is just another way to, and tarot is not unique in this sense. It has certain unique qualities, if you ask me. But there's runes, there's tea leaf reading, there's palm reading. All of these things are, in my opinion, ways. To me, there's nothing mystical about it. Now, I will also be honest, and I say this to people who ask me at public events or private events. If you do this long enough, and this is definitely true for me, I've been doing this for a little over 20 years. You certainly, and I mean it adds up fast, you see and hear things you cannot easily explain in terms of, well, that's weird. That's a little bit more than statistically, that's strange. But if you ask me, what do I make of that? I have a whole category. I have a whole folder of things in life where that happened. I have no basis to really rationally attack this, but I accept that it happened. And so it's over here in the I can't explain this bin. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
But you're not going to run home, call your mama, and say it was an act of God or the devil or anything.
No.
All right.
All right. So, Jason, now this is going to get to certain parts of the questions that I'm going to ask some questions.
Okay.
Because I was, in the beginning, I understood, and I still do understand a lot of things that you guys are talking about. I truly do, because take, for instance, this. Like I said, I grew up in a Catholic household. I tried to send my kids to CCD and stuff like that. But even at my age, I still have questions about things. One of the priests who was at the church where my kids were going to, my wife was witness there to that day, that one of the kids has hand. You know how like the kids at the pews, they near the altar, they have their hands like this. Well, one kid had it down like this. And so the priest came up to him and he goes, you cannot do that. He goes, you'll be praying to Satan if you ever put your hands down. Now, I'm going to have to call bull on that. You know what? I don't think you should put in the mind or a seed in the mind of a child that, hey, you just showed them how to pray to the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my point is, there's extreme people like that who are out there, who are in religious priests or nuns or whatever, even Buddhists or whatever. Mm-hmm. You do have your extremists, just like you have an extremist inside your religion as well.
Oh, sure.
And the one problem that I have with Satanism is that, take for instance, I would consider myself a man of faith who believes in a God. I do believe in Jesus. And because certain things happen to me in my life where I know that there's something. I truly do know this.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that, and it's not everybody that has this happen to, but the parts that bother a normal person like me, or sort of normal, is that, take for instance the upside down cross. All right, why take an item like that is going to offend a normal person like me, a normal person of day-to-day life? I do believe in a faith, but I'm not an extremist. I understand that a lot of these things were made to tick these people off. And I get it. But why do it to people who are every common day men and women who see something like that and that's offensive to them? It's like the same thing as if all of a sudden I go to a Jewish community tomorrow and I have a swastika on my hat. I don't think that's fair. Well, how do you feel about that?
I see your point. I guess I would just say it like this. Yes, I'm wearing one right now.
Right.
Am I doing it to offend? No. Am I aware of the fact that it will offend? Yes. I'll step around from the other angle now. There's a lot in the world, in people's behavior, people's choices of fashion, that offend me, right? Or I find it questionable, objectionable, or I just, I don't know. I don't think we're on the right track with that as a society, right? But so what? It's not like I'm pushing it in your face, and they're not pushing it in my face. And so, yeah, this is one of those things, like the freedom of speech and the freedom of behavior, insofar as you're not lying or pushing other people around, unfortunately includes the right to offend. In other words, I'm circling all around to tolerance and understanding and plurality of people, right?
Mm-hmm. But the one thing, your religion would never have known about an upside down cross unless Jesus was sacrificed on a cross.
Oh, sure. No, I get it. Yes, of course, we've appropriated some of these symbols and used them. And for what that's worth, what you could ask why. And that gets into the whole discussion of the Satanic Panic and a few other historical things where we're like, okay, fine, you want to call us the bad guy? We'll just start using the bad guy symbols in our belief.
Okay, and I get what you're saying. Believe me, I do. But like I said, I'm going from my standpoint as a person of faith.
Mm-hmm.
A common person like me has never ever approached a person like yourself in the satanic thing and thought of you as the bad guy. But yet symbolism from the religion of Satanism is making it to seem like we're the bad guys because you're trying to be the reverse of something that's supposed to be positive.
I see that line of thinking. Let me, I suppose, just throw something in here. I'm not, and I know the TST, I believe, is not in everything that it's communicated and done. I personally believe, and we believe in plurality. In other words, we're not out to stomp out Christianity or to offend for its own sake. Christianity or any other faith, we believe in plurality of belief. In other words, if you sort yourself out, your philosophical, theistic or non-theistic, if it works for you and it's not coming at the expense of yourself or anyone else around you, please have your faith, have your religion, have whatever works for you.
Sure. I understand.
So our objection to Christianity isn't so much about Christianity as such. It's against the erosion of church state within the United States or anywhere around the world where, again, we were talking about the bad apples in certain carts, right? It's not a wholesale attack on anyone of Christian faith. It's the ones who are out there trying to bend or manipulate the rules or the laws of the United States or anywhere else around the world to push. This gets into the "in God we trust" thing. Oh, it was there in the fabric of the United States. No, it wasn't. It was added in the 50s.
Right.
So
the legalities of things.
Because it's legalities not for its own sake. It's because it's through these legalities and laws that we have our rights or don't.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. I agree with you.
That's our main beef with Christianity, not as a wholesale, not as a faith, but with some of Christianity's manipulations of the government, the erosions of church and state.
All right. So
would it be safe to say, Jason, to ask us, do you love Christians?
I love everybody by default, or that is to say, I demonstrate compassion, right? Like
right.
I'm really a gregarious kind of fellow, and I know I'm not unique.
Right. Just for the viewers, so that they know, right?
That's definitely one thing I would not think about Jason as someone who has
No.
a hatred for people whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
That is
And that wasn't my intention. There's a reason why I asked that. Do Christians love Satanists? And that's why I asked you that question. Because if you are a Christian, then you should be in the world as Christ. And did Christ go around and like get pissed off at like people who were possessed by the devil, or you know what I mean? Like, he knew that they were people, and they need, you know, they're in this world like us. They have the same struggles. You don't know where they came from. You need to have compassion. And so I think the challenge, Neal, and I'm not saying that I necessarily react well to an upside down cross. There is a physical aversion inside, but I see beyond that. I see Jason as a person, and I don't think of him as less than me. I don't think of, you know, in that way, like, oh, he's lost or something like that. I see him going through his life and experiencing sort of a quest for understanding. So maybe as Christians, we need to be a little more tolerant. But
well, I think everybody has to be a little more tolerant. That's why we're having this platform today.
But also to uphold our values, right?
Oh yeah,
as Christians, right? And you know, the number one commandment, you know, is like not to put anyone above like God, right? Like, and treat everybody as your neighbor. I mean,
let me ask Jason this question. Now we'll get back to the Christian part. And I know you're not a voice for the church, and I understand. I just appreciate you coming on, speaking your mind.
Right.
But why not symbols or reverse symbols of other religions like Buddhism or Muslims?
Sure.
Or
Because
you get killed.
Why
well,
You get killed if you do. Christians are actually pretty, you know,
tolerable. We tolerate a lot.
Yeah.
I in my mind, we do tolerate a lot. We're led to believe that I'm led to believe by the media that I'm the bad guy all the time. That for some reason, because I believe in God, that you're nuts, you're crazy. Whereas, you know, I listen to everybody and this and that, and I think I'm very tolerable to each and everybody's beliefs. Take, for instance, this show here today. I'm very listening. I listen to people. I don't go out of my way. Well, Jason, you're a devil worshiping son of a da 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 da.
But he's not, and I think that's what you take away from this conversation that we're having. Jason is not worshiping a devil. He's not worshiping Satan.
No,
he's an atheist.
And for what it's worth, that's representative of the Satanic Temple as such. Yeah.
Right.
But there are people out there, and I've met these people, man, who are very extreme, just like certain religions are extreme. Like they lead from the beginning of a page of a book to the end of the page of the book. That's the way it is. That's the way it was. That's the way it will ever be. And you better just listen to what I say, or maybe I might just do something to you. You know, I've met people like this on many different sides of the cloth. And I don't agree with a lot of people, what they say. But it's just that what I wanted to say is that I find it wrong sometimes about the cross thing. And why is it that you guys only have that symbol for that? But you do not have it for anything else. And why? Do you use the name Satan when it's believed to be the great deceiver? Why use the name of somebody that you're using as your title?
No, that's a good question.
I mean, because right off the bat, if you say to me, I'm sorry if I didn't meet you before, Jason, all of a sudden you come up to me and you say, hey, I'm with Satanism. Would you like to join? Well, right now, right off the bat, I'm feeling like you're going to deceive me.
Sure.
Now,
sure.
Yeah, and literary Satan was a deceiver as well. Right. So,
literary Satan, yes, there's, of course, that. Okay, let me address a few things here. I will answer your question, but I wanted to circle back. So about the cross. You asked if yes, all that sort of stuff I said about offense. Between Neal, Steve, you guys, if I see you in the future and I know that it upsets you, I will literally just not wear it. I'll tuck it away. No, because if it's a difference between just running around in the world around people you don't know, and you should be able to express your style. But this is just basic. There's the balance between tolerance and just trying to be compassionate and understanding and like not a rude human being.
As a Christian, I wouldn't want you to feel that way around me.
No. It's to me it's like demonstrating. It's like holding the door or wearing a mask when other people are wearing a mask in COVID times. You want to.
Yeah.
No, but you understand.
No, I understand. Yeah.
You're trying to meet people halfway. Like, it's not just, hey, I am who I am, deal with it.
Didn't Peter get crucified on an upside down cross?
Yeah. So the upside down cross is actually, yes, it is actually it's my understanding, it has an actual Christian meaning.
Right. And he was saying that he wasn't qualified to die the way that Jesus, died. And so he said, crucify me upside down. Yes. So, I mean, that could be a meaning that I have. And I don't know, like when I look at it, it doesn't necessarily, go against anything in the Christian religion. It kind of has its own chapter, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I guess if I may, you asked the question again, why use these symbols? Right. Why use this aesthetic? Why use Satan, the antagonist of the Christian Bible, and a very evocative and charged subject to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm aware of this. It's my understanding based on everything that's been said and done by the TST. The TST is aware of this. Because you go to Paradise Lost and some of the literary works from Renaissance and Enlightenment era writers on the figure of Satan. It is that literary idea of Satan as the rebel against arbitrary authority, the rebel in favor of rights and individuality as against collectives that push and cajole people against their will. So, and because, yes, obviously this literary version spilled out of the biblical version, but then it kind of took on a life of its own through that chapter of history. And then, if you ask me, I could argue ongoing. And so yes, I understand the basis of your question, but to me, it is just the natural, the symbology came along for the ride in the literary version of it. And insofar as every part of, if you ask me, any religion in the world, that could be, one of the key characteristics that make a religion rather than just a couple of people hanging out with shared ideas is a shared aesthetic, right? And so this just happens to be the aesthetic that fell off the page by the time LaVey got a hold of it. And then modern Satanism kind of started with LaVey in the 60s, which was much more, yes, he was a carny, he was a showman, he was trying to do this for shock value. But it's interesting if you look at some of this back in the 60s in particular. Not all of them, but a lot of them were sort of recovering Catholics or Christians, for the lack of a better term. And using these sort of shocking symbols was cathartic, was freeing, was like throwing off some of the bad apple type thinking you're talking about, where it's like carrot or stick. So in the modern day, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I totally, like I said, I totally get that, man. I totally understand that. I don't like the idea of someone, like you said, telling me what to do, how to do, when to do, and and I become a heretic off of that then. And I'm not going to go literal by everything that you say. It's not going to happen. I am who I am. But at the same time, once again, I am someone of faith because of certain things that happen in my life. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to get into all that. But one question I do want to leave you with, and I'm sure maybe Steve has one more question. Steve, are you going to have another question after this?
No, I just want to say that, like, we're all on a journey, right? Like, and I think if people will, Christians even who might be viewing this podcast, I'm not saying, go and join a church or a temple, right, of Satan. What I'm saying is that look at people, understand we're all on a journey. Don't judge a book by its cover. Jason here is actually a very awesome guy. He's not worshiping the devil. If you just have a conversation with people, it doesn't mean that you are going to change because you chose to listen to somebody. Mm-hmm. Understanding someone doesn't mean that you have to forego your beliefs. Right, just understand each other. And I think that if we can do that as a society on levels beyond religion, even political, which I'm not allowed to talk about politics.
No, you're not allowed
But
to talk about politics.
but like anything, even a family member might, just understanding why somebody is a little weird and not just,
Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave him with this one last question, Steve.
All right.
And that was very well said, Steve. Is that is it true that Anton LaVey said on his deathbed before he died, "I had it all wrong"?
I mean, that could be true. I've heard that.
I heard it. I don't know if it's true. I tried to research. I could not find it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I forget where, but I've heard it. Could I imagine it to be true? Sure. Could I imagine it to be a work of, sort of wish fulfillment fiction? Also true. So yeah.
Well, you know what? I do have one more question. I'm sorry, man.
Sure.
I'm gonna cut it. I want to ask, what is your opinion about death?
So here, well, death.
Are you asking what happens?
What do you believe happens when we die?
Okay.
I can only make the educated guess, and that is nothing. My consciousness ceases, and that's that.
So you're never to return.
I mean, I have no basis in fact by which to purport that. I'm aware of human history and culture that would inform a variety of theories along that line, but I have observed nothing in reality, nor any lead to any credible source that would suggest, without getting creative and unequivocally, that there is anything beyond the point of death.
And you're in the supernatural realm.
What do you mean?
I mean, you do the tarot cards.
Oh, sure. Oh, yes, I
You
understand
go to a
that.
lot of the events.
Yeah, well, because it's fun. It's that's part of the spice of life. I love the aesthetic. I love the ideas. It's just not. There's fun, and then there's fact.
So what about like ghosts? Do you believe in like spirits?
I believe that I've seen some things that would accord or align with what people would call a spirit or a ghost, but all I can say is that I don't know how else to explain what I saw. That doesn't immediately mean that it will take societies or the popular idea of an otherwise very fanciful notion and apply it to an observed phenomenon. So yes, I've seen some things. I've experienced some things. I wouldn't be standing here right now having this conversation if it weren't for a quote ghost or otherwise explainable thing that saved me in my youth. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So yeah, again, there's a whole portfolio of things that are not easily explained, if you ask me. But that's completely different than human supposition and tradition, such as we get vampires, ghosts, cryptids, and all the rest.
Would you like to know somewhere down the line that there is some kind of salvation, though?
It doesn't interest me. I mean, as far as I can tell, that to me, I don't mean to offend you, but that's another fanciful notion. From what I can tell, there's only observable phenomena that would purport, with beyond a question of a doubt, that this is it. We've got this one trip on planet Earth and so many turns around the sun, and then that's it.
Okay.
Do you think
I'm not going to question you any more on it because that is your belief, so I'm not going to. I mean, of course, I have a different belief.
Sure.
But, and I was just curious to ask that because I wanted to see if, like, you had some kind of thing where, like, you believe that there was a salvation after death.
So I want to say something.
Please, I know you do.
I don't think human beings have the capacity to understand everything that we're experiencing.
Oh, sure. No.
Right. When you get into the old cliche, like you can't see radio waves, but they're there. Right. And there's a lot more things that we can't experience directly, or we might, we just experience them indirectly. And then we get a notion of them, of a piece of reality. But I don't think we're actually going to find out until that happens, that moment happens. We either find out there's something more, or it's like the television set, and it just dims.
Turns off.
Right.
Turns off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Well,
go ahead.
It's not. I'll admit, there's a part of me that needs to believe, in order to be sane.
Yeah.
It's something that works for me because.
Well, that's why there's a simple thing, and I understand not everybody has it, and I'm going to leave it at this: it's a simple thing called faith.
Right.
It's either you have it or you don't have faith, and that's just the way it is.
And that's kind of like, and I know you want to leave off with that, Neal, and I know we're running out of time, but I did want to just say that it kind of goes back to the question earlier of is somebody kind of lost their religion or they felt alienated but they needed to have faith in order for their brain to not like crack in this reality. Is there a place for them at the temple? And or is it just for the very strong, rational minded who's actually okay with the light turning out and there not being any additional meaning to it? I need that meaning, and I'm not ashamed of it. But yeah, it works for me. And I think if you're living a life that is good for the most part, not hurting people, do what works for you.
All right. I
love that.
All right, Jason, thank you very much for coming on to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you both.
And you want to plug some things? What's going on with you?
So, of course, I'm the tarot guy. I'm the tarot by Ptah. Tarot by Ptah. That last part is spelled Ptah. I'm on Facebook. I do way too many events at this point. Yeah.
All right. And my name is Neal, and that is Steve. And as always, boys and girls, boo. Boo.